are these people?
This is an interesting piece that I totally would not have seen anybody else in our space bringing. And it showed up in my Substack. So let's start off with Rachel.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
America's Undoing is the name of the publication. Privatization has failed, and Trump and Musk want more of it. So America doesn't have a funding problem. It has an execution problem. The government stopped building, corporations took over, and now we're stuck paying more for worse results. That kind of sounds a little right-wingy, but also makes a lot of sense, right? So They start out saying we outspend nearly every country in the world on critical systems, healthcare, education, infrastructure, the military. Yet we get mediocre results at best and complete failures at worst. All right. And then it goes into some numbers like we spend almost $15,000 per person on healthcare, which is almost twice what Switzerland spends. And what do we get for all this cash? Longer wait times, higher drug prices, and worse health outcomes than countries spending half as much. We spend more per student on education than almost any other developed country, yet we're importing engineers and doctors while churning out conspiracy theorists instead of builders, doers, and thinkers. Okay, well, there's a lot of conspiracies happening, so therefore there's got to be a lot of smart motherfuckers to keep up with the motherfuckers that are scheming. We built the Transcontinental Railroad on the backs of the Chinese in just 6 years now.
How dare they?
California's HS high-speed rail has delivered exactly 0 miles in 17 years. Our infrastructure projects take decades longer than in the past. Also, we know that China is very skilled at doing that. We spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined. Yet, we were caught completely off guard when China tested a hypersonic missile. And already we know that Yemen has hypersonic missiles and that Russia has hypersonic missiles. Yeah, let's go ask the Russians, right? So the pattern is clear. As sectors consume more of our GDP, they deliver worse and worse results. I mean, that's just what we've seen. It sounded Shatner-esque. They deliver worse and worse results.
Something on the wing.
Results. This ain't a budget crisis. It's a systems crisis. America's institutions have lost the ability to execute. And the private sector isn't innocent here. The government didn't just fail. It abdicated its role, handing the wheel over to corporations that drove us into the ground. No, I think it's a little bit more insidious than that. Corporations forced the wheel out of the hands of government by funding the government with corporatists that would send it over their way. It's time to take that wheel back. And in that way, I kind of agree. However, I don't want corporatists in charge of that wheel in the first place in government. Again, it's saying we forgot how to compete. Once upon a time, if private companies failed to deliver, the government stepped in and did it themselves. And this is why I started nodding my head when I read this. There wasn't big government. It was competition. And competition makes everything better. And I kind of disagree with that. That's a very Republican, Capitalism. Right? Yes, very Tim Curry mindset. Absolutely. All right. When private electric companies refuse to serve
clay of the New West. You know. Morons.
Morons, yes.
What?
I was waiting for it. Morons. Yes, I know.
No.
R.I.P. Gene Wilder.
Oh, my God.
But when private electric companies refused to serve rural America, the government created the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. Suddenly, wow, private utilities had to cut prices and improve service to keep up. Now, that was in the 1930s. So I wouldn't exactly say that that's kind of relevant today, but when private subway operators in New York stagnated, the city built its own lines, and the private sector either improved, no it didn't, or it got replaced, which is what happened, and the whole thing became, owned by the city. Now, this is the one that does matter. When corporations wouldn't electrify the West, the federal government built the Hoover Dam. And it's big projects like that I do think we could start doing at some point. And here's another one. When private railroads collapsed.
Work programs, doing things for the proletariat. Jeez.
The government.
I think that was a good idea.
The government took over passenger service and created Amtrak. All right. And this is the line that you have to go for with the chuds. Public competition isn't socialism. It's what built America. I mean, come on. You could just see the flag waving and the commercial behind it. You know, that's the way to get them on board with this stuff. You know, just like
Budweiser would eat it up.
When they start saying every worker would own the means of production, and they go, yeah, wait, what is that? Huh? Oh, you know, you almost have to fool them into realizing, oh, yeah, that is what we really want. The TVA, the New York subway, NASA, Amtrak. These were solutions to market failure. I don't understand. NASA, did we really have private space travel companies in the 1960s trying to go to the moon? And then or in the 1940s? And then the federal government decided we're going to step in and do this with the military? Maybe, I don't know. When corporations failed, the government stepped in and got the job done. The key point, public competition kept private industry honest. And in that way, I'm not totally against this. All right? If private companies failed, there was a backup plan. And that's the other thing. There was a backup plan. What happens if you have privatized electricity and the electric company fucking bails? It's just like what you have right now going on in California, honestly, with the fire insurance companies. You're going to have some kind of a state-run, some kind of a government-run fire insurance program because no public company will do it. Somebody's going to have to step in and take care of it.
Time for rational solutions.
Right. Thank you, St. George. The key point is, again, that public competition keeps private industry honest. Again, here you go, chuds. You want to keep private industry honest? You want to let the free market take care of itself? You've got to allow a little public competition in there. Let the people speak for themselves. And you know that's going to get taken over and co-opted anyway, but still, at least the illusion that there's some kind of public competition. All right? Mm-hmm. If private companies failed, there was a backup plan that pressure also kept costs down. That's real. Timeline short and quality high. Debatable, but high enough.
American bullshit.
Good quality, beautiful American bullshit. Today, that tool is gone. The government doesn't compete anymore. It just cuts checks, and private contractors know it. All right. Yes, go start. Federal job guarantee plus UBS. Okay, all the things. All right. I'm not a big believer in universal basic income, UBI, but but federal job guarantee, federally funded, totally locally administered. Amen, brother. I know that there's some people that there's music to their ears. All right. Look at the pattern, and here we go about the failures. California's high-speed rail project, I don't know why I said that in Southern accent, but I did, has burned through $100 billion without results. If private contractors can't deliver, why can't the Army Corps of Engineers? Okay, they certainly have the skill to build a rail or a bridge. United Healthcare, of course, rakes in billions, even though they have a new CEO, yet millions remain uninsured. If they can't provide affordable coverage, why can't the VA compete directly in the marketplace? Well, because that would increase wait times for veterans that it's already stretched thin for. I got 100 reasons why not. That's not necessarily the best answer either, but it's certainly an interesting question. They then present that defense contractors charge the Pentagon outrageous sums for basic equipment. Why aren't government shipyards and factories still making weapons themselves? Interesting question also, but don't you think that would cost a whole lot more to maintain than just outsourcing the building of a ship to a third-party American company that already employs American workers that are already screened? I don't know if that's necessarily it either. I think we need to cut those programs and put more public programs in place. Government shipyards and factories making, I don't want them making weapons. I want them making other things. Why do they have to make weapons? America needs to stop begging corporations to do their jobs and start competing with them again, or at least making what the hell it needs on its own. National paralysis. Corporate America is lazy and unpatriotic. Again, this is a little red, white, and blue underoos guy on here. But I think there are some valid points that we could smush down and some that we can have conversations about, which is why I brought it. What we've got now is a national paralysis that runs deeper than most folks realize, and I agree with that. We've handed control of our essential systems to corporations that have zero incentive to build a functional society. Totally agree. Yeah. Their only real mission is quarterly profits and shareholder returns. 100% aligned with this guy. I assume it's a guy. The Fortune 500 ain't patriotic. They don't care about America's future. Their job is to suck up as much money as possible while doing the least work possible. Also, not necessarily quite the definition, but they want to suck up the most possible for their organization and spread their own power and growth. But why innovate when they can lobby? Why build when they can extract? They're doing both at the same time. They're extracting and building and growing their power base. Think about it. Okay, again, these guys aren't magical. These companies aren't magical. Even the ones doing rocket science like SpaceX are standing on the shoulders of government employees. They're using the stuff we built, the stuff our grandparents and great-grandparents built. Yeah, exactly. You didn't build shit. Who was it that Bill Burr had a great line about, like, World War II? It was very early on. And we built this country. Right. Or maybe it was Doug Stay. You didn't build shit. You showed up at a bar on Tuesday and you're lucky that you didn't get fucking fired on Wednesday morning. Bro, he goes off. It's wonderful. Doug Stanhope. While smoking a butt the entire time. Fucking brilliant. Right? Even the ones doing rocket science, like SpaceX, are standing on the shoulders of government employees, okay? But they're selling us government stuff back to us for a 400% markup. Are you listening? Peter Thiel, all right? Palantir, for example, literally is total information awareness and LifeLog that was resold back to Palantir through a cutout, through In-Q-Tel and funded, all right? They review and consult. They think about thinking. They meet about meetings. They produce PowerPoints. Now they're called slide decks instead of power grids. Whatever. Yeah, but that just shows that not business world. All right. They've created a whole ecosystem of busy work that looks productive but builds nothing of actual value. I also contend that it does build some actual value, but laying out a sales plan on a slide deck PowerPoint and then executing that PowerPoint over the following 6 months or a year and going back and reviewing, did you execute properly or well enough? What was in that PowerPoint does have merit and value, and it does educate people as to what you're going to do and then sets a marker for whether you accomplished it or not. So kind of disagree with that too. But again, a lot of stuff I do agree with. AT&T didn't wire America out of love for country. The railroads didn't connect the coasts because they cared about progress. Again, no, they did it on the backs of Chinese slave labor, but he didn't want to talk about that. They did it because they had to compete or get replaced. That's a little revisionist history that I can't even begin to start to have a conversation about. Without public competition, these companies will keep sitting on their hands, cashing checks and delivering nothing. The little historical lesson could have been left out there. But that line does certainly, and that ain't just an inefficient, it's a national security risk. And you know what? Until Boeing planes started dropping out of the sky, I might have disagreed with him. But since they're the only people that make planes for the U.S. government at this point and for the military, he might have a real point. Breaking the cycle, and here's the suggestion for a new model. So what do we do about all this? The answer ain't more government or less government. It's a government that actually builds again. To hell with SpaceX. Let's restore NASA to its former glory. Forget UPS and FedEx. Let's supercharge the post office and make it the world's best logistics network again. If United Healthcare can't cover Americans affordably, then the VA and Medicare should expand to serve everyone. Wait a minute. Medicare for all. Wait a minute. That's another reason Medicare should expand to serve everyone. So wait a minute. This guy wants a public works project. This guy wants Medicare for all.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
Space! That's right, Tim Curry. Space! But no, this is America. All right, supercharge the post office. Again, that is an American thing. I'm down with that.
Das Vidania, Commander.
This ain't just a left or right issue. Trump and Musk are selling a fantasy of private industry saving the day. The Democrats, even in places like California, keep cutting blank checks to failing corporations instead of stepping in to compete. I literally talked to Keith McHenry about that at the end of last summer in our one-on-one when I asked him, where's all the money going for homelessness? Because $23 billion this year, and they're not fixing a thing. And he had a fantastic answer about that. Go back and check that out. The Democrats, like we said, are giving money to failing corporations, and the result is that billionaires get richer and America gets poorer. So to reiterate and fix this, we need to rebuild government capacity to execute and stop outsourcing everything. Reintroduce public competition. If private industry fails, step in and build it ourselves. Measure success by outcomes and not by dollars spent. Train people who can actually build things and bring back vocational education. I sound like Joe Biden
Build
now.
back better.
Bring back vocational education and apprenticeships. I've been hearing a lot about that for 15 years, but I don't really see it much.
Yep.
Cut the red tape. Simplify the process. Hold people accountable for results, not for checking boxes. And finally, force corporations to compete or get replaced. The only way to fix lazy CEOs is by threatening their business model. If SpaceX doesn't...
lives. What?
Is SpaceX, well, the business model is they're threatening their business model is threatening their livelihoods. All right. Oh, UBS is Universal Basic Services. Yes, agreed. Ghost story. Yep. Okay. But America doesn't have a funding problem. Again, if NASA should fix SpaceX, should deliver a SpaceX can't, but actually SpaceX delivered in a way that NASA couldn't. Right? Wasn't it NASA that sent the astronauts up into that space thing and couldn't get them out? And Elon sent the rocket to get them back? No?
Might have, yeah, but I think that's because NASA's massively underfunded and yada, yada, yada.
Point. Again, if FedEx overcharges, the Postal Service should step in. And they have for decades, but they're being starved right now. And Louis DeJoy is about to cut 10,000 more. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show tonight. America doesn't have a funding problem. It has a competence problem. If we don't fix it, we'll keep spending like a superpower while building like a failed state. All right. And it's time to rethink the role of government. It can't be some distant bureaucracy. We need a government that feels like an extension of us, one that competes, delivers, and builds like our future depends on it, because it does. If we want to control our future, we'll need more than policy tweaks. We'll need something big, something that shifts power back where it belongs. But first, people have to see the crisis for what it is, and they can't. People keep asking this person what his solution is. It starts with letting go of the fantasy that corporations are infallible. Amen. That the market will magically fix everything. Absolutely. And that there's nothing for us to do together as a nation. Agreed.
The market will fix everything?
He's saying letting go of that fantasy.
Yeah.
The truth is, when private industry robs us blind, we don't have to take it. We can fight back the way we always have by building, by competing, by proving that when the government actually works for the people, we can build faster, better, and cheaper than any bloated corporation weighed down by stock buybacks and executive bonuses. It's time to stop waiting for someone else to fix it and take the wheel ourselves. This guy sounds like an ANCAP halfway, but not really that capitalist. Like, again, labels are bad, so I don't want to label this guy, but I did think that there were a lot of really important points in here that were worth dissecting. Even, again, we're not going to agree with a lot of stuff that we see here, but this one was pretty interesting, and I thought it...
People that get to become executives become like the people that were already executives.
What? How
did Richard Pryor suddenly?
How did Richard Pryor make it on this show? Richard Pryor.
That's weird.
What's up?
It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you like the people that are in power.
Nice. FRT. I wonder what that spells. FRT.
I'm surprised this guy didn't decide to blame the real problem. You know?
Big government?
Clearly.
Right?
Clearly it's Canada.
That one will certainly not be hot with the algorithm, and that's why we always ask you to take care of the people that are covering stories like this, because not many shows are going to read an article like that, I can promise you, and go through it and dissect it. But I think it's worthy of having a conversation about. A lot of shows certainly have talked about federal job guarantees and federal projects, and I give them a lot of credit as well in the vein of what's going on with Canada, with California's high-speed rail, and Canada's too, for that matter. But also, 51st state. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. We don't want Canada to be the 51st state. We don't play that here.
We want them to be the 52nd. First, we got to get Puerto Rico, and
Wesley got it. He's definitely, that guy was a commie. He didn't even know it. Like, just secretly communist. There was a lot of communist or at least socialist ideas in there, and I thought that was an interesting.
They'll get there eventually
from a capitalist perspective. Yeah, well, guy's clearly got money, and he's looking for a way to save the ship from going all the way down. That's kind of the way that I saw
what America really has become.
The
is rich
perspective.
people against poor people.
Well, that's Charles Barkley, ladies and gentlemen. Wait, what?
You recognize that voice?
We're fucked with the Jett X Girl account.
We're fucked.
No, that's Misty. What?
Accent. You have to be able to read. Can you read, my son?
Oh.
Can you read?
We're fucked with the Jett X Girl accent.
Read?
Even better. Sure.
Can you read, my son?
Sometimes. Yes, he is a closet
Can you go
commie.
fuck yourself?
We'll get him at some point. We will get him on
Who
board.
are these people?
Oh, thank you, Sean. Sounds like Greater
Sean.
Israel.
Big money Sean in the house.
I hope he's not I hope he's not an Israel simp. That would be super disappointing. And you can see we are now 25% now, all the way to our $2,000 goal. So we're getting there. Thank you so much.
You did it,
Sean, and everybody else who's helped out there and hooked us up. Support independent media. We need it more than ever. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you,
All
everyone.
people are afraid. No one knows what they're doing. Everything is getting worse. Some people deserve to die. Your money is worthless. No one is properly dressed. At least one of your children will disappoint you. The system is rigged. Your house will never be completely clean. All teachers are incompetent. There are people who really dislike you. Nothing is as good as it seems. Things don't last. No one is paying attention. The country is dying. God doesn't care. Shh.
Good night, everyone.
Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.